Family, yeah. That's what you're left with at the end of the day. You know, as the body fails, the brain fails, everything else. Like we were talking about earlier, you don't want to be that guy that's dying at the VA hospital with oatmeal dripping off your chin because nobody's going to visit you.
I like that. We're going to call that the Oatmeal Test.
The Oatmeal Test, exactly.
Right? You got to test yourself do a head check every month, every year, whatever. Just do an oatmeal test and say, am I going to be the guy in the hospital with oatmeal dripping off his chin, nobody visiting?
How do you raise productive kids that love the life of fitness? Welcome to Spartan Up Podcast. We've scoured through past interviews to find the answers. On this classic episode of Spartan Up, we bring you 4 voices. Zach Even-Esh, founder of the Underground Strength Gym, who is a strength and conditioning coach working with youth. Jimmy Chin, the climber, skier, and adventure filmmaker, talks about his childhood and how his parents motivated him and his love of the outdoors. Retired Command Sergeant Major Rick Lamb, who tells the story of coming home from deployment and finding a son who needed him. And finally, Gabby Reece, who talks about how she and Laird Hamilton think about fitness in the lives of their own children. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Durolane, a single injection that may provide up to 6 months relief from osteoarthritis knee pain. Risks can include general knee pain and pain at the injection site. You can see full prescribing information at durolane.com. First, some practical advice from Zach.
In this episode, I'm answering a question that was posted on one of our YouTube videos after we did our last episodes, when I asked the listeners, what do you want to learn in the next Spartan Way episode? And somebody said, how do I inspire my kids to want to exercise? And that's a great question. So I want to share with you a story, an experience I've had that really helped me with my kids. So on the weekends, my kids would be playing out front. I would kind of sneak in a little bit of exercise in the garage, climbing rope, farmer walking the kettlebells up and down the street. And before long, I started seeing my daughter swinging on the climbing rope. My son was climbing that rope. That became their normal simply by me setting the example. So it's not so much do I have to tell them to exercise, it's about showing them what I'm doing and having fun with it. Now, they were young at the time, right? 1.5, 3.5. I've also had experience with older kids, you know, kids that are almost teenagers or kids that are in their younger teen years. And I had a parent who was running Spartan races tell me how she became addicted to running these Spartan races, but her son was not exercising. He didn't want to go out for runs with her, whether it was cold or too hot. And I said, you know, there's 2 things that I think about with kids. Things that I hope my kids experience when they go to school. And it's number 1, are they having fun? And number 2, make them feel safe. I even do it at my gym. I bring them in and that first workout is easy. They're done before they're done. It doesn't exhaust them. It makes them feel better when they're done with the workout than when they walk through those doors. So make it safe, make it fun. And the thing I want you to do today, one thing to do today is do 1 exercise in front of your kids or with your kids if they're a little bit older. 10 burpees, 10 squats, maybe a sprint up and down the street, maybe farmer walk the garbage cans out to the street. Do something in front of the family or with the family, and you will inspire them to want to exercise like a Spartan.
And next, Jimmy Chin, adventure filmmaker.
My parents were immigrants and from China, and they, made a life in the States, and they had some very high expectations for me. And I think, looking back now, reflecting on the things that my parents really instilled in me was just always from the very beginning was like excellence was the only option. Like if you're gonna do something, it was always,
well.
And that was just the way that I thought from the beginning. And I studied.
Only child?
No, 2, my sister, older sister, and she was incredible and still one of my best friends. And
she a heart surgeon or brain surgeon or something? Or?
Well, she was really smart. I mean, she went to Stanford coming out of like a school in Mankato,
sure.
And then went on to study at Oxford, and then was like worked at Yale for 16, 17 years. And then I was like the youngest little brother that like went off and like
did crazy stuff.
Did my own thing. But But from a very young age, I studied martial arts from as long as I can remember, as far back as I can remember. My dad was training me in the martial arts.
Nice.
And then...
What kind of martial arts?
Chinese Kung Fu, but then I think I might have been one of the youngest black belts in Taekwondo in Minnesota. Not that that's a big deal, but like I remember them saying something like that.
Sure.
When I tested for it. I was 14, and so I took that pretty seriously, and I competed every weekend, and then I swam competitively like my whole...
Tough sport.
So I literally would sometimes go to 2 events a weekend, compete in martial arts, and then
How do you not get burnt out? I push my kids pretty hard. Everybody says you're going to burn them out.
It's interesting that you talk about burnout, though, because I did kind of start to get burned out. And funny enough, what I found skiing, and I basically, if I did well in school, if I did well in, competing and all these things, I got to go skiing.
Got it.
And then I
fell in love with it.
Yeah.
That was something they weren't pushing. That's
yeah,
something
and
you
it was
wanted.
mine.
Right.
And there were no rules.
Right.
And I could do whatever I wanted. And also, but it still, had an edge, it had speed, it had all these different things. Yeah. But it was like an incentive for me to do well and other things. But, as soon as I left for college, I started moving, I stopped playing the violin, I picked up the guitar. I stopped. Yeah, I started skiing more. I found climbing.
Got it.
And then climbing really basically became an obsession.
So you didn't climb until college?
Yeah, super late.
Got it.
Especially kids these days start when they're like...
But you're super fit. You picked it
5.
up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I think martial arts or gymnastics or anything like that, if you have kind of your body awareness, it's really helpful. But,
sure.
Yeah.
We'll be right back to this interview, but first a message from today's sponsor, Durlane. You know that knee pain can really slow you down. Sometimes that knee pain is due to osteoarthritis, a disease that affects some 14 million Americans. Learn about osteoarthritis knee pain and how to alleviate it at oakneepainrelief.com. You'll find information there about non-surgical, non-opioid treatments for osteoarthritis knee pain that may help delay the need for knee surgery. One treatment you'll find there is Durlane, a single injection that may provide up to 6 months of relief from osteoarthritis knee pain. It's indicated for the treatment of mild to moderate osteoarthritis knee pain when conservative treatments have not worked. Risks can include general knee pain and pain at the injection site. Full prescribing information is at Durlane.com. Spartans say no to limits. You can learn more at oakneepainrelief.com. That's oakneepainrelief.com. All right, back to the interview. And here's Rick Lamb's story.
I mean, she when I got out of Iraq, right? I called her on the phone, and she hung up on me. I didn't catch it at the time. Right. I thought it was just a bad line, so I called her again. I said, "Hey, baby, I'm out of the clique." And so I emailed her. I said, "What's up?" And she said, "I'm tired of being an Army wife." So she told me very succinctly that you can go serve in 3 of the Ranger battalions and all 5 of the Special Forces groups, but you're doing it without me. So I had kids. I had a lot of time invested in that young lady, and I loved her to death. So I said, "All right, I'm getting out." So I went to my boss and said, "Hey, here's my retirement paperwork."
That was it?
Yeah, that was it.
Wait, how old were the kids when the click happened?
When the click happened, 10 and 12.
10 and 12,
yeah.
All right.
So it just so happens that that's about the age where they really, really need you.
Sure.
Especially in this day and age, with all the social media and everything.
Sure.
I mean, they need somebody, and I felt pretty comfortable in their in their character. Yeah. Because they had been around military guys their entire life. I mean, so the role models were all there,
yeah.
And but now we're out among the English. We're disconnected, and so I started noticing in my son that he was staying inside a lot and way too much. And
what year would this have been?
This would have been 03, 04, I guess.
Okay. So video games are becoming pretty
big.
Video
games are becoming big, and we had resisted the urge to get him a video game until we got out, and so now we're out, and he's just hooked on this thing. And I said, "Buddy, that's not you. I mean, you're an outside kid. You're always climbing in trees. You're doing something." And so I said, "We're going to put the video games. We're going to take a little pause on that, and we're going to put it up." And he drooped, and I said, "Go get a piece of paper and a pencil." So he runs and go get a piece of paper and a pencil. I said,
how long had you been home at this point?
Probably Probably a good year.
All right.
Just watching him and seeing what he's up to, because I had been gone for the previous 2 years.
Sure.
And so I'm just getting reconnected, and that was one of the reasons she hung up the phone, was that it's obviously you don't care. So I had abandoned her in Germany. Right. And had been reassigned to Africa, and then from Africa to Jordan, and then from Jordan to Iraq.
And then, by the way, for those listening and watching out there, it happens to me, right? You just get so invested and so myopic in your job and your mission and your guys or girl, right? And because we
were going to war, and they had to be ready.
Right.
And but my wife is very resilient, so I just figured she's got this.
Right.
And but when you're stranded in a foreign country, and your husband is like 2 commands removed, so I'm not even her sponsor anymore.
Right.
And she's in a foreign country.
Sure.
So I should have thought that one out.
Yeah.
But,
so you're sitting in front of your son. You just ripped him off the video game.
Exactly. And I said, I've been watching you, and we're going to map your passions. Every man needs passion. And so I said, I see you flying airplanes with your joystick. I said, you want to no kidding get a private pilot's license? I said, the hijackers were trained just right down the street. And so he goes, yeah. I said, well, write it down. Single engine land and sea. So he writes it down. I said, I see you doing the martial arts stuff. I said, we got Gracie Studios. A guy by the name of Rob Kahn is right here in Tampa. Do you want to get a black belt in martial arts? He goes, yeah. I said, write it down. So I see you doing the Omaha beach landings, the shooting games. I said, do you want to get a Brownells manual? Now, Brownells, I don't know if you're, for the guys that aren't shooters, Brownells is a company out of Iowa, and they make this big book. It's got every piece, every spring, and then you can buy the parts and make your own. So I said, we will build a pistol, a carbine, and a rifle, and I'll teach you how to shoot them. I used to do this for a living. And he goes, yeah, so write it down. I said, how about tack up and ride a horse, drive off-road, get a motorcycle license? And so he's like, yeah. So I said, all right, here's the deal. Put 4 years of college on that thing and speak a foreign language and then sign it. So he signs it, and I said, now I'm going to countersign it. So this is Dad's
And this will take a
commitment.
week, this whole mission.
So I countersigned it, and I said, I'm going to bankroll all this. And I said, now turn it over. And he turns it over, and I said, write, I will not be a turd. And so he writes, I will not be a turd. And I said, now here's the list. And I said, so no ear piercings, no body piercings, no tattoos. And he goes, Dad, you have body piercings and tattoos. I said, I know, trust me on this one. I said, what I don't want is for you to get a big old tattoo of Yosemite Sam with 2 6 guns and his junk hanging out and then go for a job interview. I said, because what you like at 14 or 15 is not maybe what's going to sell to your boss when you're 21. So trust me on this one. And there'll come a time that I just want you to know what you're doing to your body. I said,
so no turd, no piercings, no tattoos.
Yeah, no run-ins with the law, no smoking, no drugs, no drinking, no getting your girlfriend pregnant. And he goes, Dad, I don't have a girlfriend. I said, you will? So I said, this is the list.
Right.
And I said, so in order to get what's on the other side, you have to commit to this lifestyle. And so he signs it. And then we put it up by his desk, and then he checked it off as we spent 12 years checking it off. So you fast forward 12 years, he's a senior at USF, and he's a beast. And, he can shoot. He's a master diver. He's a pilot. He can do all those things. And so the deputy sheriff who was running the range comes over and he says, "Hey son, when do you get out of the military?" Because he had seen him shooting. And he goes, "Well, I'm not in the military. I'm a college kid at USF." And he goes, how does that happen? And he goes, "That's my dad over there." And so he pulls a card out, and he gets ready to hand him a card, and he pulls it back, and he goes, "You got any piercings? You got any tattoos? You got any run-ins with the law?" And he goes down the list, and my son starts laughing, and so he goes, "What's so funny?" I said, "That's my dad's list." And so he goes, "We'll sponsor you in the academy at Hillsborough, Hillsborough County, Florida. It's a big sheriff's department." And he said, "Once you're out of the academy, then you can dive for us, you can fly for us, you can work here at the range, but you got to do 2 years on the street." And
nice.
So he got sponsored through the academy, went into law enforcement. He's a good kid. He's got a will to help people, a strong heart, and I always joke that he's into guns, he's into drugs, he's into gangs, and roams the street at night. But he's in and out of jail all the time
in a healthy way. But it all happened with one click.
With one click.
One
exactly.
click. It was your wife's click of the phone, because if she didn't do that, it's easy to just watch family kind of maybe slip away.
Oh, exactly. 'Cause especially if you're into what you're doing, And because she, when I got back to Germany, and she said, you can take care of all this household good stuff, I'm going home. And home to her is Korea. And so I think we've been married 20 some odd years at that point. And so now we're going on 34. And
Nice.
Stronger than ever. I do
and
owe
your
her.
son owes her. Yeah.
True. Oh yeah, because she's better than me, smarter, more organized.
They all
I
are.
wish I had her ability to just organize and commit.
And then the last one you hit was family.
Family, yeah. That's what you're left with at the end of the day. As the body fails, the brain fails, everything else. Like we were talking about earlier, you don't want to be that guy that's dying at the VA hospital with oatmeal dripping off your chin because nobody's going to visit you.
I like that. We're going to call that the Oatmeal Test.
The Oatmeal Test, exactly.
Right? You got to test yourself every, do a head check every month, every year, whatever. Just do an oatmeal test and say, am I going to be the guy in the hospital with oatmeal dripping off his chin, nobody visiting?
That look around. I mean, the world is in trouble. We were probably in more trouble than we've ever been. And if you're not raising good humans to be able to adapt to that, then you're not doing your job.
Finally, one of our favorite guests on Spartan Up, Gabby Reece.
When you're young and you pick it up, you love the learning and the progress because you're exponentially better from like month to month. But the other thing that you love is like it's a game and it's fun and you have teammates and it's sort of all that celebration. So I'm reminded of that. But yes, I mean, there are days where I'm like, really? Like you're out here playing volleyball, maybe do something else.
Another game,
sure.
Another day. Kids play it?
No, not at all. I have a daughter who's into tennis and a daughter who's graduating college, so she's been focusing on that. And my youngest is into tennis and horseback. But I have a feeling that they will sort of start to sniff around at my younger too. But it just can't come from me. It has to be such a personal discovery.
Sure. Well, that was a question. Like a lot of times a super parent like that coming from a super sports background will push it and they reject it.
It's a nightmare for children.
Yeah.
Are you going to be like your dad or are you going to be like your mom? And so I never grew up with that. We joke in our house that if we were like sober and paid our rent, we transcended our parents. I mean, I'm oversimplifying, but it's sort of pretty true for both Laird and I. And so we thought going into it like, oh, if we're healthy and we're like trying to have this good relationship and it's safe and we're not doing drugs and alcohol or whatever, that would fix everything. And then you realize like your kids have a whole other set of things that you didn't have to experience. And so even though that's not maybe the lingo in the house, it's the lingo from the outside world to them.
Sure.
And like, for example, my 14-year-old daughter at this very moment looks the part, right? She's very tall, she's athletic, so everyone puts that obvious thing on her.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting to learn as a parent, I've been parenting for over 20 years, and now I'm finally learning, it's a great thing, that you don't really know their experience, and you don't know what the outside world is telling them, and so you just have to, do your best to listen, but then help them navigate it.
And my wife was a soccer player, not at your level of volleyball, but a high level.
Yeah.
And I remember one day, we have 4 children, she was crying and she said, oh, they don't like soccer. And I called my dad because I'd never had kids before. And I was like, I don't even know anything about soccer. And he goes, well, does she play soccer with them? I go, no.
Yeah.
Well, how the hell are they going to like soccer then?
Yeah.
So did you go through any of those swings?
Yeah, like one of my youngest daughter would ask me to pepper, which is like, it's sort of the back and forth between two people, like how they warm up. Yeah. And so we did that a little bit. And then my middle daughter has said, I would like you to maybe teach me some of the fundamentals. And I'm like, are you sure? Like, I'm your mom.
Because it's going to get serious real quick.
Well, no, not even that. No kid believes their parents. Right. You don't know what you're talking about. So if I said, like, bend your knees, they might be like, well, I don't know. We'll see. Yeah. And so I think it's been a combination. But we do try to create an environment where it isn't like one of my daughters worked out with me today, and she'll say, oh, I don't want to do that. And I go, great, you're here. That's all that matters. Like, you do what is fun to you, because it shouldn't be about training. It should still be about play and discovery and fun and movement. And I actually think, even though there's a level of discipline and punishment within rigid training that everybody knows, especially if you're trying to get results, that still where is the fun or the play in there, even in the grind? So I think with her, I'm just sort of saying like, oh, this is kind of fun and this is what we do.
Write that one down. Find the play in the grind.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's very true.
Thanks for listening to this classic episode of the Spartan Up Podcast. Remember, whatever task you're taking on, you will need resilience of mind, body, and spirit. And we're here to be your partner with reminders, techniques, and strategies 3 days a week to help you stay on track. Whatever app you listen in, click that follow button or that subscribe button to make sure you get notifications and you don't miss valuable information. See you next time. This episode of Spartan Up is brought to you by Durolane, a single injection that may provide up to 6 months relief from osteoarthritis knee pain. Risks can include general knee pain and pain at the injection site. You can see full prescribing information at durolane.com.